Hey everybody, Riot is doing a SIVIR rework and it actually looks pretty interesting, so I figured I'd go through it. Now it's not on the PvE yet, but they have posted a video and they have posted the changes that they're going to do, and they're pretty interesting. So I figured I'd go through that with you guys, get my feedback and your guys' feedback. SIVIR rework is incoming to PvE this week, so posting the full list and goals here. Note, numbers are not final but do reflect direction. Posting a video of new W behavior and replies. I'll go through that later when we go through a W. So far for right now, they have posted a list of what they want to do and the more specific numbers that they're going to go through with it. So we're going to go through, there's 2 pages here, and we'll go through that right now. Do note that I did have a food poisoning a bit, so I was throwing up, so I'm not like at 100%, but I figured I'd go through this anyway. So, change list. Solidify SIVIR is a premier AoE teamfighting crit marksman so long as she can stay in the fight. Now I'm going to clarify this for all you guys. They want her scaling better on attack speed, and they want her scaling better on crit, and they don't want her just being a lethality champion that kind of chucks her Q out every cooldown and tries to kill people on that early game, which is probably better and healthier for the champion if that's what she does. Now before we go this, I drew a beautiful SIVIR and her beautiful glaive to help us visualize some of these changes. So, passive is more feelable and synergizes better with attack speed. Q usefulness now scales smoothly over game time. In other words, they don't want you just building lethality and then trying to one-shot people very early in the game. W bounces are a more reliable source of DPS. Her W is pretty useless right now, and they want it to be, well, better. E no longer holds SIVIR's mana together. They wanted her mana to actually be mana and not be this weird thing where like all her abilities cost 12 billion mana, but then in return, when she spell shields something, she gets mana back. That was maybe an interesting design like 5, 6, 7 years ago, but now I think most people find it annoying, particularly if you literally just ignore SIVIR, she'll go out of mana throwing her Q. But right now she's an early game champion, so she goes out of mana trying to play the early game as an early game champion? Yeah. R is more personally useful for SIVIR than for teammates. They want her R to actually feel strong and powerful and not just sort of be, you know, pro play, press alt, run into position. Which I think that's a good idea too. I think most of these are actually a good idea. Base stats. Adjusting base stats that have been barely touched since Season 5 to better match her shape. So her flat mana is going down. Both her level 1 and how much mana she gets per level is going down by a good chunk too, so don't think that's a small amount. Her mana regen at level 1 is also going down, and then her mana regen per level is going down, so she will have less mana and regenerate it less. Her AD is going down by a total of 5, if you can believe it, but her AD per level is going up by 0.3, so this will equalize out, but like at level 18. Her base HP is going down 32. Now, I just need to stop here and talk about this, right? You guys have been doing this in the past couple of patches, and this is how we ended up needing the durability update. What you guys do all the time is you give champions more damage, and then you say, oh, they're too damaging, we need to remove some health and armor from them. And that's a problem. That's how we ended up needing the durability update. Health values hadn't gone up in like 7 or 8 years. In fact, your average champions were starting to end up with less armor and less health over time, with the few exceptions of some champions like Ryze and Akali and Sylas. We had many champion releases like Yone. Yone has the same health as Yasuo but less armor. Why does he have less armor? Oh, because he deals more damage and he has more mobility. So let's try to avoid doing that again. You know, don't just give a champion the entire kitchen sink of utility and damage and then make them squishier to compensate for it. Okay, or we'll need durability update too. I just feel like saying that right now, okay? Attack speed per level is going from 1.6 to 2, so the more she levels up, the more attack speed she gets. Now her passive, Fleet of Foot, sharper movement speed that synergizes with attack speed. What do they mean by that? The movement speed now decays over 2 seconds, but the amount she gets from it is higher. So instead of just getting a flat movement bonus for attacking people over 2 seconds, she now gets a lot of movement speed that falls off quickly. And the idea here is that she builds more attack speed and keeps up the higher amount of attack speed from, you know, constantly attacking and refreshing to get the higher movement speed that hasn't decayed, which, okay, if you want someone to build attack speed, that's probably fair, right? It also means that SIVIR doesn't just need to attack once every 2 seconds to kind of kite people out, which all of these things are good. Now Q1, Q, more reliable Q1, slightly less reliable Q2. Damage scales linearly over game time. So going with before, they don't want SIVIR just building lethality, which is a good idea. They don't want just building lethality and going for the one-shot Dark Harvest builds, which they've had to nerf a lot and they've had to rebalance her around, and it's not fun to fight, and it's not really that interesting to be, and people haven't really enjoyed it. It hasn't been an ideal build. So the base damage is going down at level 1 by 20, but it's going up at rank 5 by 20. So less damage in the early game, more damage in the late game. The total attack damage ratio is going from 0.7 to 1.3 to 0.7 flat. So rank 5Q nearly has half the AD ratio, and that's a total AD ratio, so it scales on her base attack damage. And remember, base attack damage is also going down. The cooldown is going from 7 to 12 to 10. So these are all massive nerfs, but the cast time is going to go down with attack speed. The more attack speed she has, the faster it casts, up to just being instant, which seems a bit weird, but okay. So basically, they don't want SIVIR to like attack, then deadass stop still to press Q, thereby potentially lowering her damage, and then attack. They want her to just attack, throw Q, attack, which I just kind of have an issue with an ability that can potentially have 0 cast time. Now scales with crit chance up to 100% bonus damage. So if she builds crit and she gets to 100% crit, the AD ratio will go from 0.7 to 1.4 in addition to the base damage going up. So they want her building crit. If you just go lethality, it will do significantly less damage. If you build attack speed, it'll cast faster, and if you build crit, it'll do more damage. The cost is going from 70 to 110 to 55 to 75, so it'll cost way less mana in the late game and less mana in the early game. You can see the mana regen nerfs here mean that, yeah. So the missile speed is going from 1350 flat, both in and out, to 1450 out and 1200 inward. Now what that means is when she throws it, it's going to be faster, but when it comes back in, it'll be slower. So I'm not really sure what this is intended to do, other than to just kind of make it so it's reliable to at least get half the damage. Or maybe they want it to like hit people right at the zenith, like right when it goes out then pulls back in, it'll be faster. So then it'll go like out in and then whack people more with poke. I guess, I mean, that's a change. It means if people are closer to her, it's much harder for her to hit the Q2, but I don't know. So her W, more reliable bounces, no longer infinite. W now grants attack speed and synergizes with attack speed. So the buff duration is going from 3 attacks to 4 seconds instead of, now this is a Ricochet. This is when she throws it out and then, you know, it does like the little AoEs and all that. So instead of just being able to, your next 3 attacks get to AoE, it'll now be 4 seconds where you can AoE the entire 4 seconds. You will now get 20 to 40% attack speed. I'm assuming that attack speed isn't like a passive. It's not like Nocturne's attack speed. I'm assuming this attack speed is only when it's active. Now the max bounces are going from infinite to 7 per Ricochet. So in the past, if it had a new target, it would always go to a new target. It didn't have a maximum amount of bounces. But it can now bounce back to targets that have already been hit, but it will always try to go to a new target before going to one that's already been hit. Now going to the video right here, that means that if she throws her W, it will, you can see here, it's bouncing back to her original target and hitting them again, which is pretty strong. That's pretty strong. It's interesting. I'm not sure it's a good idea, but it's an interesting idea. It gives her more uniqueness, I guess. I mean, I'm not against it, but I'll have to see how it, or if it's actually balanced. So the total attack damage is going from 0.3 to 0.9 to 0.3 flat. So if you actually sit there and you hit like 2 or 3 targets, you can AoE them pretty hard, but in return, her total AoE throughout a team fight will presumably be lower to the extraneous targets. The bounce range is going from 450 to 500, so it'll find new targets at a longer range. The cost is going from 75 to 75 to 55, so when you max the ability, it'll cost less mana. So far, you might have noticed these mana changes don't really seem to be compensating for how badly they're nerfing her base mana, but I guess we'll see here. Her E is, now they want to say, remove E as a source of the kit's mana. Give it to other outputs that SIVIR can appreciate. So her E is that little, let me draw this here real quick to give you guys that visualization. Is it blue? I think it's blue. That's the spell shield she gets. So it used to be if you popped her spell shield, she would get mana. The idea being that if she continuously threw her glaive over and over, she'd run out of mana fast. But if she had the spell shield popped, then she would get mana back. So they want to remove that, which, yeah, okay. I mean, that's fair. It was a unique thing for her that she had to block spells to get mana to continue to spam abilities. Okay. So, removed, mana refund. It no longer refunds mana. It now heals her for 0.6 to 0.8 total attack damage, plus a 0.5 AP ratio, which is, okay, fine, I guess. The heal is interesting. But okay, so it procs Fleet of Foot, that's her passive. That's not Fleet Footwork, that's Fleet of Foot. I know, you're confused. I was confused too. I was like, why does it specifically proc that keystone? That's bizarrely specific. But instead, so it now procs her passive. So if she blocks a spell, she now gets a burst of movement speed and a heal. But the cost is going from 0 to 40. The cooldown is going up at the later ranks pretty hard, from 22 to 10 to 22 to 14. So her W now is stronger, but also weaker. You can't just spam it indefinitely to always block spells and always get mana back from blocking spells. But in return, your mana costs are lower. But in return, her base mana is lower. So my gut feeling is that she's not going to have enough mana. That's like my gut feeling. I don't know if it's going to be true, but that's my gut feeling. My gut tells me she's going to go pretty quickly and might have to go with a Tear of the Goddess style of build, but I don't know. Now her R, this is when they wanted to give her basically like a Master Yi style of ultimate type thing, where it's like, it's more selfish, it does things to her. So her R no longer gives her attack speed when she uses her W. So her W now gives her the attack speed by itself. It used to be when you ranked up your ultimate, you'd get attack speed during your W. Now you just get attack speed for your W for leveling up and using your W. Does everybody get that? Okay. Removed initial movement speed burst. She no longer gets the initial movement speed burst. So obviously in the past, she would go, ha! That's my SIVIR impression. She would go, ha! And then she'd like run really fast, but then it would slowly fall off until the small amount, okay? But they are changing that to only 20 to 30% movement speed, which isn't a lot, but it's still a little bit. The duration is going from 8 to 8 to 12. However, it now refreshes on recently damaged takedowns. So if she's damaged someone in 3 seconds of killing them, she now gets the entire duration of her ultimate back, which is scary because that means she can be zipping around. Even 20 to 30% movement speed is a lot, and she can be zipping around for a while, and if she kills someone, then she goes back to zipping around for a long time. And that's strong. That's strong. They cut this off here a little bit at the bottom. New auto attacks during the hunt reduce SIVIR's basic ability cooldowns by 0.5 seconds. So this is where they're trying to do like the Master Yi or like Aatrox kind of ultimate from her thing, where yeah, if she's now in her ultimate, which refreshes, so kind of like a Vayne ultimate, she can now combo kill, and each time she attacks someone, it reduces the cooldown on her abilities by 0.5, so she can get potentially more of her E, because if she uses her E a lot, I guess she can now go back into her E. I'd have to, let me look at the cooldown down here. So she uses it, and yep, so she does get the cooldown down pretty hard, although she doesn't have, I'm assuming she's going to go with that mana restore Sheen item. That's what I would imagine she's going to do. But yeah, so yeah, she can get her W cooldown down pretty hard, and maybe infinite W. She can get more spell shields, she can get more Qs. I mean, that's pretty cool. I mean, at the very least, they're giving her like something cool, and that's kind of what I like about this. Right now, SIVIR's kind of a loser. Sorry to say, SIVIR's kind of a loser, and her glaive is also kind of a loser. In fact, they're a good pair because they're both losers, and I think what they're trying to do is make her not a loser. They're trying to give her an identity. They're trying to give her something cool that she can do. She can be the champion that does a shitload of AoEs and can spell shield and heal and get lots of movement speed and run around and go infinite in fights. So I think that's actually cool. Actually, sorry, I actually do like this as a whole. The numbers might make me hate it. If it goes live in 2 weeks and I hate it, I reserve the right to hate it, okay? Don't come back to me and say, oh, you thought it was cool until you fought it. Okay, I don't know any of these numbers. If if she ends up and, you know, spamming ability haste, and then she ends up, you know, kind of going like infinite W spell shield, where she like spell shields into a spell shield into a spell shield, which constantly keeps healing her, she attacks more people, I reserve the right to hate this. But it does seem that they're pushing more into a carry, more of a late game carry, more of a champion who can do, I guess, cool things. I think she's still only got 500 range, but she will get a lot of movement speed, particularly as the game goes on. So we'll kind of see what's going on with this. Overall, I would actually say this is a pretty cool rework. It's a neat idea at any rate. It doesn't seem to do anything crazy. I mean, there's a few things that could potentially go wrong here, but overall, yeah, no, I like this rework, and that's good. So if you're still here, make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, make sure to leave a comment on your thoughts. Do you think it's cool? Do you not think it's cool? Do you like my drawing? Does anybody like my Sivir and Glaive drawing? Because I could sell this to you as an NFT. So yeah. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for being here. Reminder to join my Patreon. If you can join my Patreon for as little as $3 a month, and it helps me immensely and helps me continue to do content like this when I'm sick with food poisoning and dying. Special shout out to my YouTube members. Thank you guys, and thank you everybody who likes this video and just watch it. Thank you everybody. Have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.